Hello, dear listeners. We're back with another riveting tale of Alfonso Bryne. We continue our story as we see our downtrodden hero cleaning up the streets near his shabby HQ, only known to us as the Dive Bar, a once failing generic bar both in name and appearance. He made it into something of a rickety home base, filled with all kinds of weapons and supplies that would last him and whoever he found months. Though his defenses were somewhat laughable, Alfonso's skills, although rusty, were not. Now, listeners, let's get into the story. After the day of The Walking Dead came to his own doorstep, Alfonso went for weeks building up a perimeter in this neighborhood, nuzzled in the lower middle part of Bedford Falls. He searched essentially all the neighborhood, finding zilch, nada. Looking back at the situation, he could have taken care of his base a little better, and the neighborhood. What would happen if he rescued a damsel in distress and brought her back to his place, the HQ? A pigsty to say the least, one hell of a mess to be sure. Alfonso kept the streets clear of any dead walking into his neighborhood, just in case someone ran to the part of Bedford Falls. He kept his profile low, not shooting any of his guns he found along the way. He even found a snub-nosed pistol. Though it wasn't his old girl, it was still a sight for sore eyes. He didn't want to admit it, but finding the snubby made him shed a little tear. Oh, the times he had with these guns. Alfonso was always a sucker for semantics. Small things like this would set him off into small tangents of memories, people, places he remembered. Even places he wanted to go and dreams he had. All the good times that he missed, especially now, here living in this hell. A place with a name where people, if there is anyone left, would forget in a few years. Bedford Falls, a town abandoned, a place in ruin. God help me, he said in his ill-fitting bike helmet. Looking down at the last set of stairs, he finally made it all the way to the bottom floor. Embarrassingly, a little tired, he paced himself after reaching the end. Exiting the building and feeling fresh air on part of his neck, he never felt better that he was out of the apartment complex. Clearing every room in that dump was more work than he ever anticipated. The pure dread of possibly seeing a Walking Dead eating some poor schmuck, or worse, what was left of a botched attempt, would send him in a hell of a depressive state. It's been quite a while since he talked to, let alone seen another human being, and it's really gotten him down. Just then, he heard a wonderful sound coming from the sky. A helicopter. He never thought that this sound right now could be so sweet. Mesmerized, he went to his base to gather things to leave this trash heap. Closing the damaged door behind him, looking at the chopper getting closer and closer, it started to hover over him. He went to get his things because he knew that they saw him. How could they miss him? He was the only moving thing that was around this part of town. As fast as he could, he dropped unnecessary weight and went back outside, thinking that all he needed was the clothes on his back and a week's supply of things. But before he could make it out, he heard a loud thump. Fearing the worst, he gripped the handle for only a second. Then he threw the door open. "No. Please, no," Alfonso said, still gripping onto the doorknob, his voice rising into a desperate, crying yell. He said nothing as he watched the helicopter in the distance fly away. He knew what had happened, but it didn't mean that he liked it, or that it did not shock him. All they did was drop supplies for him, and left him in the cold. I guess I'll see what they left me," he murmured to himself, the last two words burning in his throat as he made his way over. After some time of searching, he came across it, the supply drop. He didn't know what would be in it, but if they came out all this way here, then there had to be something important in it, right? He hoped as he clenched his fists. Good. There's not many of them here. He spoke to no one in particular. He started to speak to himself a lot lately. He caught himself at the end and slightly quickened his pace in embarrassment. After killing the small group of dead, Alfonso wandered cautiously towards the heavy green metal containers, inspecting them. Let's see what they got here. As he flipped the snug latches open, Peering inside, he found some boxes marked Department of the Army, United States of America. "Well, that clears things up," he mumbled, scratching his head. Why would the US military just airlift him away? Or better question, why would they just drop all this just for him? More questions came to his mind, making it hard to think. Then he got a little bit angry, thinking that they just left him with food and no weapons. These bastards eat people. What was he gonna do with all this food? "Well, maybe it's to hold me over till the army gets here." Talking to himself a little too loud at first. But he liked the idea. But he also doubted it as well. Alfonso went to the adjacent house to take a breather, and to be safer. It was easier to tell a dead guy shambling up the stairs than to have them sneak up on you outside, distracted by everything. He started to read a flyer that was dropped with the crates. "Notice: do not impede or interfere with patrols. Do not approach any military position unless explicitly instructed otherwise. Brandishing weapons towards patrols will be considered a hostile act. Avoid contact with affected individuals. Do not harbor or share your shelter with affected individuals. Make no attempt to communicate with affected individuals. We are here for your safety." Once he read the flyer, he knew they were never physically going to help him, and if he met any patrols, they'd probably be hostile. It was self-evident that you couldn't live or work with these corpses. Regardless, he was grateful people were still around. But why wouldn't they come down? What was happening? What got them staying in the sky? He sighed and moved on. It doesn't matter as long as there's people. His mission became more important. The military still being intact, there's still hope of ending this and having a safe home again. Alfonso took a few trips from the HQ to the crates, gathering everything he could. Weeks went by. The military dropped him another crate, closer to home. After gathering all the stuff from the crates, he went back to looting and surviving. He was glad the military had resources to give him the food. It was a blessing, for sure. While at the HQ, he felt something ominous. The air started to go stale and thin. The smell turned acidic and started to burn Alfonso's lungs. The once blue sky turned brownish red. Wet chemical smell was pungent in the air. It was hard to breathe and walk and move, even think. Alfonso mindlessly wandered his base, trying to breathe, trying to find fresh air. He passed out, with teary eyes and burning lungs. Alfonso woke up with a painful start, aching body, dry mouth and eyes, with a taste of blood. Alfonso opened his cracked, bleeding lips and aptly said, "Fuck," in a raspy tone. He stands up in a familiar yet spinning room. He stumbles out of the room, sucking in air painfully, with wheezing and coughing, rushing towards the sink. After some time realizing he's been out for days, he goes out to survey the area, after resting up, that is. Alfonso grabs some guns and quickly encounters a horde. It takes him a bit since he's still recovering from the last strange anomaly. Something was wrong with that storm. After killing that horde, he realized something. That strange storm should have ended him. He thought he did die, but when he woke up next to dry vomit and brown, cracked blood running down his lip, it was hard to believe he survived. He might have choked on vomit, or just straight up died from the chemicals that was obviously in the air. Maybe it was a chemical attack from the government. Deep in his gut, he knew this was connected to the walking corpses. Could this infection be chemical? Who did this? Alfonso's counted his lucky star. He's alive. He was immune. All he knew, he needed to leave town before this storm or chemical attack happens again. Alfonso gathered his gear and started to the edge of town. Hey everybody, I really hope you enjoyed this last episode of Alfonso Bryne. This is pre-recorded. Obviously, the first episode should be out a week before this, and obviously if you've noticed, I do weekly content. Right now, I'm in a slump because, well, my meds have been fucking me up, so I switched to a new one, and I'm trying to get used to that. And my job is kind of shitty, but it's okay. I get paid decently. So yeah, life happens, I guess. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the story. I didn't know how to end it, so I just ended it on a silent part, so you could just take whatever you want from the ending of the story and just think oh, he did this or did that, you know. I'm not good at writing, obviously, but I enjoy doing this, and I haven't been drawing that much, honestly, and it's kind of a bummer, but so far, I would say the content that I'm making now will probably stop, and it will slow down because I have a job, and that job is very taxing. I have to do 10 hours a day for 5 days a week, and that makes me tired. So the episodes and stories and videos and all this stuff will go to a crawl, and yeah, there's nothing I can do about that. It's life. I have to make money. And so anyways, good day, good night, and remember, don't go fuck yourself. See you later, guys.